Do you want to learn how to fish with a spinning rod? That's what we're doing in this video. Hello and welcome to the channel. If you're brand new to fishing or just looking for a refresher course, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Bang that little bell icon so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. Today we're going to cover spinning rods, one of the most commonly used fishing poles out there today. It's fairly simple to use, but if you're brand new to fishing, you might have a few questions. So let's get started. Now today we're going to start with a little 5'6" spinning rod, mostly geared towards kid or people to use for panfish, small little bluegills, crappies, things like that. Now if you're brand new to fishing and don't know anything about the equipment, I highly recommend you start with this video right here where I cover a spin caster setup and the little terminal tackle kit that comes with it, where we talk about hooks, sinkers, bobbers, drag, eyes, rods, reels, things like that. It's a very basic tutorial. Now if you're somewhat familiar and just looking for a refresher course, we'll go ahead and talk about this 5'6" spinning rod. This one is two-piece design so you can break the rod down in half. This is the rod, this is the fishing reel. On the fishing reel we have fishing line. This line is probably, I would say, 6 or 8 pound test. It came pre-strung on the reel. Now when we talk about pound test on the fishing line, that's generally how big a fish you can have on the line before it would break off. So if I've got a 6 pound line and I caught a 7 pound bass, there's a pretty good chance that I could break that fish off if I'm not careful. Now when we talk about fishing line, we should also talk about knots. And we'll get into knots in a little bit and I'll walk you through some of the basic ones. Every time you tie a knot in the fishing line, you lose about 1/3 of the strength. So if this is 10 pound test line and I tie a hook on the end of it, you can expect it to be good for about 6.5 pounds. Now what are some of the ways we can fight to keep the fish from breaking off if they're bigger than the line rating? Well, on the front of this, we have what's called drag. It's a little dial on the front, and if you tighten it or loosen it, it'll change the amount of line that can be pulled off when the bale is closed. So in other words, if I have a 10 pound fish and I got 6 pound line on here, what I want to be able to have happen is for that fish to be able to pull off line. You hear that clicking? That's the spool letting the line come off even though the bale is closed. What that does is relieve tension on the reel and lets the fish take some line out. The goal would be with a fish that big to let it wear itself out and then reel it in slowly later. So with the drag, the more you tighten it, the less it will play. The more you loosen it, the more it will give the fish a little line to play with. And sometimes you have to adjust this on the fly based on the size of the fish. So you heard me mention bale. That's this thing right here that lifts up and comes open. We open this up when we want to cast the line out. When the line hits the water, we want to either close it by hand or start reeling so that it closes automatically. The line will circle around to the end of the bale and then catch in a little trap right here so that when you turn it, it will wrap the line around the spool and it will move up and down so that it re-spools the line evenly. So let's get this set up for fishing. All right, so now we're going to line the hook through the eyes of the fishing pole. First thing we want to do is open the bale to let our line free. And then we're just going to start feeding it through one eye at a time until we get all the way to the end of the pole. And grab the end and bring it back down to our reel and close the bale. Next we're going to add the hook to the line and 2 split sinkers. We're going to start out with night crawlers today because that's the most basic form of fishing. We're going to use a polymer knot. I'll link a close-up video up in the upper left-hand corner to watch how you tie this knot. But you start by feeding the line through once. You come back through the eye of the hook to make a loop. And for demonstration purposes, I'm going to make this loop really big so you can watch how I tie this knot. Got a really big loop. You're going to take the loop in this hand, wrap it behind those, and then just pass this through so you make an overhand knot like that. Then this loop that came off the end, you're going to grab the hook and pull it through and then start slowly tightening it down. Now when you get to about here, you want to stop and wet the line. I just stick it in my mouth and then pull it tight. We get the line wet because we don't want to burn the line, making it weaker. So now that I've moistened the line, I'm just pulling everything tight. Once you get it nice and tight, you can take this tag in and cut it off with a pair of scissors or nail clippers. Now that that's done, we're just going to feed our line through one of these split shots and squeeze it tight. Once you got it hand tight, you can take a pair of pliers, squeeze it the rest of the way to cinch it onto the line. It's about 6 inches up from the bottom of the hook. Then as you can see, I placed the next one right to it and pinched it on down. Next, I'll grab our bobber and push in from the bottom, and then just feed the line through this and let it pinch down on the line. You want to make sure it goes down into the hole so it pulls the line tight. Now I usually start with the bobber about 18 inches up from the hook, but you're going to want to adjust it after you make a few casts trying to guess how deep the water is. If it's too shallow, your bobber will lay on its side, and if it's deep enough, it'll generally point down where the bottom of the string is. So let's go down and see if we can catch us a fish. Now to cast this out, what we're going to want to do is take the line and put it in our finger and open this bale. We're going to reel the rod back to about 1 o'clock behind our head, and when it passes our head, coming forward, we'll just let our finger off and let the line fly. It takes a little bit of practice, but you'll get used to it. Since night crawlers are pretty big worms, I'm just going to take and pinch off about an inch, inch and a half. I'll start with the tail. And then I'm just going to feed it onto the hook. Just feed it onto the hook a few times. About like that. And then we'll go ahead and cast it out there. There we go. Oh, now I lifted a little too gentle there. So I'm going to take it. Now that they know that there's a worm there, I'm just going to take it and drop it back in. I got my line a little tighter this time. But I should have been able to get a hook in that fish because he took it all the way underwater. Yep, there he is. Lift. Nope, that might be a really little fish trying to steal my worm. So we'll just keep throwing it back in there. There he goes. Lift. And we got him. All right, nice little fighter. And we'll reel him up. Nice little bluegill. Now I'm going to open my bale and set my rod down while holding the line. And when you get a fish like this, take your hand and work from the head down and just close those fins so they won't get you. As you can see, I hooked him right here in the top of the mouth. It was just like this. Nice little hook set. And there we go, first bluegill. Go ahead and toss him back in. You see, he wasn't even here 5 minutes and caught a fish. So I'll go ahead and hook another night crawler on. And you can find these worms anywhere. You go around and lift up a bunch of rocks or woods around your yard or where you're fishing, you'll probably find worms. Pretty much any big box store that sells fishing tackle will have a cooler full of night crawlers and redworms. Or if you're already at the lake, any gas station near you will have baits there because they know there's a lot of people in the area that fish because there's a lake there. So we'll just throw it back out again. Already getting bit as soon as it hit. And this is just fishing at its simplest form. Line, bobber, weight, hook, and bait at the end of it. You could literally tie fishing line to the end of a big stick and do what I'm doing right now. We used to do that. It was called a cane pole. About 12 foot long. Yep, as soon as he hit the water, boom. That one was probably a little one because I didn't get a hook in him. I'm going to lift it up and check my... Yep, my worm is still on there. You'll have little bitty bluegills take your worm. That's okay. You'll weed through those. The bigger ones will see that they're attacking it too, and then they'll push the little ones out of the way and want the worm for themselves. And I always just throw it in, give it 10 or 15 seconds. If nothing bites, I'll pop it back in again. Just the action of something plopping in the water will get their attention. So I'll come out, I'll go out a little farther, making sure that I can see my bobber. Yep, just like that. That was a little one. He took it, but he wasn't big enough to get that hook in him. But that's all right. We'll just keep throwing it out there until we get one that's big enough to get on the hook and come to us. Yep, there's a bite. Taking off with it. Taking off with it, lift, got him. And you'll feel it pull. And there we go. And again, start with the head, just work your way down. Just like that. Is it 2 bluegill in a couple of minutes with 1 night crawler already? Now, one of the things I notice with a lot of fishermen that are just starting out is they never give a spot enough time. They want to cast, and if they don't get bit, they'll just keep moving. The key thing too is if you catch a fish, there's a reason there's fish there. Stay there and keep fishing them. But again, fish of every type love structure. They love something to hang around and ambush stuff from. Things like this, rocks. Well, see, look at that. I came over here, boom, get bit. Now they know it's there. But see, I've got a little log here for fish to sit next to, you know. And I'll just keep picking it up, plopping it back in there. Every time they hear a noise, they'll turn to look and see what's in there. He was biting it as I was pulling it. Yep, there he goes. Boom. Got him. So that was what, 3 fish on 1 night crawler? Whoop. Again, just hook right there in the top of the mouth. If you find it hard to get the hook out, just carry a little set of pliers with you. It's just that easy. 1 worm, 3 fish. All right, as you can see, we got another beautiful Indiana sunset out here behind me, running out of daylight. If you like videos like this, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. It helps YouTube promote these videos to other people that are looking to learn how to fish. Don't stay home during these crazy times. Go outside. Take someone fishing for the first time. You might get a reaction like this. Keep reeling. Keep reeling.
Oh,
yay! You got a bluegill. You got a bluegill.
Fish again.
If you haven't watched the introduction video where my granddaughter caught her very first fish, you can watch that right here. If you want to see the playlist of the knots we're using, I'll post those right here.